I can't be canceled, there's no way that you can stop me. I'm fully independent, there's no label who can drop me. Y'all been starting rumors, let me help you with some. Yeah, y'all can't cancel me. My life is scandal free. There ain't no sponsors taking losses cause the brand is me. My hands are clean, my family and my fans agree. Y'all can't cancel me for facts because you're mad and weak. How's a man say I'm clickbait if he gonna use this face to get clicks on his page? Y'all hypocrites are made. But I ain't tripping about these bullies, it ain't 6th grade. Go ahead and diss me trying to sell a couple mixtapes. I am not playing it safe, I said what I said, it is what it is.
I don't care if you mad at me, okay? Go ahead and change the channel. Don't waste your time trying to cancel me, okay? They love me cause they know that I'm it. Say what you want, I guess it is what it is. Haters can talk, but they can't cancel the kid. Go ahead and go off, try and say this is it.
Oklahoma weather can dish out some of the worst punishment in the world. Hi everyone, I'm meteorologist Tuttle. But now you can fight back by installing Class 4 impact-resistant shingles from Ferguson Roof Systems. These shingles can withstand large hail, heavy rain, and hurricane-force winds, all while keeping your home safe and dry. And the best part, this upgrade is completely free for many homeowners. So call.
Good morning, everyone. Meteorologist Tuttle back with you again. It is about 1 o'clock, just a couple minutes shy. And we've got some showers and storms to talk about, and it's hard to believe we can have severe weather in the middle of July, but it does happen, and usually we shift to a more of a damaging wind event. It's really hard to get large hail this time of the year. It's also very hard to get a tornado this time of the year in this area of the country, but we do have a little potential for all of it on the table, and we're going to outline that for you. So thanks for joining me. Make sure you like and share this video. Tell all your friends and family about AT's weather, how they can tune in to see all the latest and greatest. I see you, Leslie, shooting me some stars this afternoon on Facebook, so I appreciate that. Hope you guys are enjoying your lunch break, lunch hour if you have to work, or if you're just home chilling, you know, trying to get a break from the heat. Thanks for tuning in as well. All right, so let's, without further ado, get to business here. I'm going to load up my fancy graphics, and let's get you going. So, first off, by the way, boy, my screen froze a little bit. Anyway, it's a nice view as far as the clouds are concerned. So you will see these clouds bubble up a little bit more this afternoon across northern Oklahoma, and then they will move into central Oklahoma and the Tulsa area as we head into our late afternoon and evening time frame. And that's where we're going to start to see some of those thunderstorms move on in. Temperatures out there right now, it's warm. Here's a look at my live Tempest weather station. And you can see we've got 86 degrees here at the AT's weather house with a southeast wind. Humidity value is pretty, substantial, 72%, so it makes it feel like it's pretty humid out there. So the heat index value is about 96 degrees. We felt like, I think, 100 yesterday. So even though the actual air temperatures aren't running that hot, you have to add about 10 degrees to that, to what it feels like to your skin when you're out there in the shade, believe it or not. That's not even being out there in the sun. So that's why we always say drink plenty of water, seek lots of shade during the summertime months. We can talk about all that later at another time, but right now let's get focused on the details at hand. So here is a look. By the way, if you wanted your own Tempest weather station, there was a QR code on there. You can also get that information on the website, aarontutleweather.com. So here's a look at the latest Mesonet page from the Oklahoma Mesonet. And there is, let me draw this little line right here, a cold front starting to work in to this part of the state. So this will be the front that slowly works its way south and eastward here this afternoon, and that will help to trigger showers and storms along it, kind of in this little region here. As we head from about 4 o'clock onward, then that activity will shift to the south. So that's kind of how things ought to progress for today. We can look at that also in the satellite viewpoint, and you can see we have a little fine line. Let's see, let's look at the wind barbs for direction. So we'll go something like this. So that's about where our cold front resides. So there's some Q development starting to develop along the frontal boundary. And as that happens, that'll set the stage for what will end up being some showers and storms. But otherwise, we just have a little round of clouds moving through. There were a couple other storms this morning here across northeast Oklahoma that are now moving into northwestern Arkansas. All right, so now let's take a look at the kicker for all of this, believe it or not. We have to go to the upper levels of the atmosphere. It's a jet stream pattern, so this is, as we head into this afternoon, coming from the northwest to the southeast, this little batch of colors you see, this represents mid-level energy in the atmosphere, and it is moving to the south and east. So that will trigger the lift that we need along our cold front to get those storms to go. This is all thanks to an area of upper level low pressure that's dropping down into the Midwest of the country. And as that happens, that'll bring in some slightly cooler and slightly drier air for Oklahoma tomorrow. But meanwhile, it's going to help to launch some storms here for this evening. All right, so that's the big picture as to why that's happening and all the details. Now here's a look at what the threat is from the Storm Prediction Center. This is the general risk of enhancement over central northeast Oklahoma. They've extended. Yesterday, if you watched me, they had the tornado threat up here in, I think it was central Missouri. So you can see how now they've expanded that to include parts of Kansas, Nebraska, down to the Red River, then back up to the northeast. Now, you're wondering, wow, is that a big threat for tornadoes here in Oklahoma City and the rest of the body of Oklahoma? No, this is a 2% ring, which means it's kind of a CYA chicken 2%. In other words, can't rule out a freak event, but for the most part, we should not be seeing that occur. Can't rule 1 or 2 out. Now here's a look at the wind field. You can see that is a bigger threat, big large area of red here over a good chunk of the state. And then there's the hail as well, which mainly confined up here in northeast Oklahoma and a southeastern Kansas. Actually, if I show you this little model graphic here, this is a prediction from the short-term models, which indicate most of the hail, it seems to think, will be in this quadrant with size up to about golf ball in diameter. So this isn't a huge hail-making event. It is more of a wind-making event. So here's a look at the close-up view of that. So enhancement here over central Oklahoma, north and central Oklahoma. Don't get lost in the fact where it says slight, enhanced, or moderate. The point is we're going to see some severe weather around the area, except if you live out in far western Oklahoma, only a marginal threat of just storms in general. But there's a hail size up to golf balls. This is the one we're going to focus on. Winds up around 60 to 80 miles per hour. And like we said, tornado potential very, very low here across central Oklahoma. If you were to look in the northeast Oklahoma, it's the same way. The enhanced risk covers pretty much most of that region with the exception of far southeast Oklahoma. Timing on this for storms will be this afternoon here, starting after about 3 to 4 o'clock. Here across northern Oklahoma as that cold front presses in. Then that moves into the central corridor along I-40 from 7 to 11. And then later toward midnight down across southern Oklahoma. Same thing for the northeastern parts of the state. Bartlesville up in the late afternoon. Tulsa in the early evening. And then Old McAllister to Fort Smith to Hugo down into the midnight hour. Here is a look at how things ought to progress and how they look with storms as they develop. This is the model's best guess at how things ought to progress. So looking at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon where it starts to really get these storms going. Again, they'll start a little earlier than that, but that'll be where they'll start to get pretty meaty. And you can see how they kind of line up northeast to southwest. So there's 6 and 7 o'clock. Now, caveat here, this could easily be an hour adjusted. In other words, it could be closer to Oklahoma City than this shows, but it is going to be in the vicinity. So if you have any plans here in the greater Oklahoma City area, starting from 7 o'clock onward, just know you might have to have a backup plan or just know there'll be some storms around if you're going to be doing anything outdoors. If we go through time, there's 8, there's 9. You can see it goes through the northeast to southwest, and you do see on occasion there's going to be some breaks in the heavier of the storm. So you still might get some light rain. You may not necessarily get these severe weather or heavy thunderstorm activity. So know that even though there's rain in the forecast for pretty much this entire cold front zone, there are going to be a few of you that get disappointed if you're looking for some significant rainfall. But most of us will be getting some decent stuff. So if we go through time, there's 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, so it's finally starting to move out of the Oklahoma City metro area, pressing on southward toward midnight into Lawton, to St. Paul's Valley, McAllister, Fort Smith. A couple stragglers up there in northern central Oklahoma from Tulsa here to Oklahoma City around 2 in the morning, but otherwise most of the activity is down south and then progresses out of the state by the time we head into the early morning hours. Now there will be a rebound of a few isolated showers thanks to that upper level energy I showed you in northeast Oklahoma. So from Bartlesville to Tulsa, McAllister, pretty much the eastern third of the state is going to be fair game for some isolated activity for your Sunday afternoon, whereas the rest of the state looks dry and a lot more pleasant with temperatures returning into the 80s. But that'll kind of continue into the evening hours for Sunday. Then that's out of here. Looks like some passing clouds in here for Monday morning. And there's some activity tries to get going, isolated nature along the Red River for Monday evening and then out toward the Panhandle. These are remnants of the outflow boundaries and the cold front that kind of falls apart. But again, not too much of a significant factor for the body of the state. Here's the talk about the wind field. So this is just a snapshot. I just picked 10 p.m. This is where the model had these little pockets of yellow to orange into some brown colors, which represents winds in excess of 60 miles per hour. So you can see even in the model depiction, it's not a widespread wind event. It's these little pockets of wind that'll happen as the storms move on through. We are going to get some significant rain out of this, as we said. Some of you folks will get a little too much, so it could be leading to some potential brief flash flooding. So here's 1 to 2 inches that shows up in the model data in these little sweet spots where you see the orange or the yellow, or excuse me, the red, Aaron. That would be the color of red. Northeast Oklahoma, though, not much. Stuff doesn't get going until it moves past the Woodward and Enid area. Again, not a whole lot out here in southwest Oklahoma. So the model tries to do its best at showing you where the convective streaks will be. Remember how I told you there'll be some breaks, you don't get as much rain. So for example, here's just a tenth. You know, that's the idea. If you're trying to blend it all and smooth it all over, you're looking at more something like this, where again we try to pinpoint some of these potential for higher amounts, but you can get some significant rain in this. Again, 2 inches not out of the question. The models really like to favor northeast Oklahoma and eastern Oklahoma for the heavier round of rain overall. But again, in these little heavier thunderstorms can produce that amount in these little various regions in the rest of the state. Temperature-wise this afternoon, we're going to be in the low to mid-90s, so a little warm today, kind of like yesterday. And again, with that heat index value, you're looking over 100 degrees. Then tomorrow, so much better, right? Temperatures back into the lower 80s in northeast Oklahoma, into the mid to upper 80s in central. Still be some low 90s down southwest where that cold front just kind of lost its punch. Doesn't have enough hanging in with it. And if we look at the 7-day outlook over the next several days, we're looking for temperatures to stay right around 90 degrees, which is actually a little below normal. This goes all the way into the middle of July, but the last week of July, from the 20th onward, there's some discrepancies in the model data as to whether or not we'll get ridge build back in here. We'll start to get some heat build back in. One of the models really liked that earlier. Matter of fact, I have not looked at it in a couple of days, but just for fun, we're going to look at it right now because I'm curious. I had not looked at the upper pattern that far out, but it looks like it's still trying to do it. So it's still trying to bump us up into the upper 90s, whereas a blend of the other models keeps us closer to 90. So yet to be determined whether or not around the 20th we start to hit the big peak of heat before we cool back down again. We'll talk about all that a little bit later on. One more thing I want to mention before I end this little presentation would be the type of storms we're going to get. Let me do this. So just so if you're curious to see, you know, why all the action, right? Let me just pick this spot here up around Stillwater. So I'm just picking up a random spot, and the only reason why is to show you kind of what the atmosphere looks like in the upper levels when we take a look at a forecast sounding. And the forecast sounding shows the red line and the green line as it goes up with height. Well, the more of a bigger gap you see within these areas is where you have a better potential for wind damage. So we look at this WNDG parameter. It says 1.6. Anytime you get a value over 1, it indicates you get a damaging wind event. So in other words, the atmosphere is prepared for a damaging wind event with some pretty good shear for this time of the year. It does indicate a possible tornado hazard type, but it would have to be riding along the front more than likely and not let the front undercut it, which means there's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts in there. It'd be a freak occurrence, but it's not completely zero. And the significant hail threat at the largest is 2.5 inches, so it's possible maybe somebody might get something like that, but most of the hail should be around golf ball or smaller. All right, so that's kind of more of the scientific backstory to all that. All right, so let me jump down and answer a couple of questions if you have any, and then I'll turn you loose. And thanks for spending a little time with me here on your Saturday. Somebody already asking for Larry. It never ends. Daisy, I see you with some stars. Thank you. Let's see what else we got here. Cindy had some thunder. Must be up there in northeast Oklahoma. Natalie says, Riskin Davis. My son is at camp there. Yeah, it'll be in the evening hours. So make sure they have my weather app, by the way, and that will let them know. It'll give them a heads up on lightning in the area before the storm arrives. It'll also say dangerous storm approaching when it's about 25 miles away. So it gives them plenty of time to get to shelter. Misty's in California. Says it's going to be 112 today. Man, they hit 130 degrees in Death Valley, California. Was it yesterday? So that was a record. They're expecting that kind of heat to continue over the weekend. I see your comment, Ron. Let's see. What else we got? Oh, yeah, Kevin's on it. He's got the Death Valley comment. Yeah, it'll be a little breezy today out of the south, just in general, once we get kind of moving in the afternoon a little bit. Brenda's in the house with some stars, so thank you, Brenda. Lindsay says no camping in Tulsa. Not if we're going to do it between those hours I showed you, in the evening hours. Gary wants to know if we think we'll get much rain in Cherokee. It's possible. Like I said, there's going to be some parts of the state that don't get quite that much, unfortunately. If you're wanting more rain. Some of you have had enough and you don't want any more rain at all. But that's just the way it is in the summertime. Sometimes it's not a solid line. It can be more cellular, where there's just individual cells built into a broken line. And then other times it can be just a full, flat out, what we call an MCS. An MCS is a solid cluster of storms where everybody gets rain and everybody gets a lot of rain. You usually get a little hail with it as well. We're kind of forming an MCS, sort of, but it's not happening until it's kind of in the southern Oklahoma. So by that point in time, there's been a lot of breaks in the action. Checking out you guys on YouTube here real quick. Christopher's in the house from the northern parts of the country. Thanks for checking in, Christopher. And comment there, we had a neighborhood event that we changed to earlier in the day because of your forecast. Thanks, AT. You're welcome. So, by the way, let me show you something here real quick. Let's see here. Stand by. Because you may not know about this. A lot of people, and I understand this because a lot of times these apps that you get can be very complicated on what they can do. So, for example, here's my weather app. You can see it here. And what I really should do is pull this up like on a screen. But I have the Storm Prediction Center located up here. If it's up here at the top right where there's a little layers icon, you can click on this little layers icon. Get that over there. And there's all kinds of menu items on here you can pick from. So the best deal is to always play around. Just start pressing buttons. Now at the bottom of the scale, there's colors. And you're like, okay, well these colors don't show me anything. Just SPZ Day 1 Outlook. Well, if I tap and hold this little thing, this slide changes. So that's the legend. So on any of these maps you see where there's a legend at the bottom, you can tap and hold your finger and that'll give you value. So some people don't know about that as well. And if we talk about up here, we can go to the overlay section. I can turn on National Weather Service alerts, lightning, and storm vectors. So there's 3 things I just turned on. And by doing that, I can overlay all kinds of stuff, and then you can zoom in all across the country and track your own storms. You can click on the arrows themselves. It'll pop up a little menu. I know this is really hard to see, so there we go. I don't know if you can see that or not. Anyway, you can just do this, play with this at home, tap that little box, and then you get this that pops up. So this gives you time of arrival. So if I click on cities list, it'll name all the cities and the time of arrival when that storm comes. It'll tell you what's inside the storm. This one I just clicked on randomly, said max DBZ of 50, which in meteorological terms, if you get a storm that has about a 55 or greater DBZ, you have some at least small hail in it at a minimum. And then as that value gets higher, the hail size gets larger. But anyway, you can play with that. This one says meso at the top, and then it says east-northeast at 43. And the Z5, that's an identifier. So the radar has to identify these cells shorthand code. So it says Z5 is the name of the cell. Meso indicates it's got a mesocyclone in it, so it's rotating in the mid-levels, not necessarily at the ground. And then an east-northeast at 43 means it's moving 43 miles an hour. That's fast. So this is if you got to keep pressing buttons to get down deeper into the menu. But that's a look at my weather app for you. It's AT's Weather to Go. You can download it on Apple, Google Play. And like I said, it'll also alert you with lightning in the area, danger storms approaching, and also, if it were to happen this evening, twisting storm alert, which means a potential tornado coming your way. On that will be a BTI rating from 1 to 10. Now, usually if it's a 7 or higher, it's a guaranteed tornado. You got to hit the shelters. Now that usually happens during stronger events, springtime events, kind of a deal. In the summertime, all the parameters are a little weaker as far as the signals, right? So you can get a tornado when those BTI numbers are a little lower, say around a 4 or a 5. When in a normal other springtime severe weather situation, that just means kind of watch it. It means it's kind of on the borderline. But in the summertime when things are weak, it could easily mean that. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at those values. If it's usually a 1 or 2 or 3, all it means that it's got weak rotation in it, and just keep an eye on it. But as that number ramps up, that's when you really want to start to pay attention or get into your shelters. So always as I do these lives, if you read the ticker at the bottom and you're new here, every day I reinforce this same information, which is what to do or don't do when it comes to severe weather, how to protect yourself when you get into the house, and you're seeking shelter, where, lowest floor, center place, away from all outside windows. I always have the kids put on whatever kind of sporting gear they have, helmets and pads and stuff. And even if you don't have them playing sports, you can go out and buy some, call it tornado gear, and you have them put it on. So that always will protect you with flying debris and give you the best place to seek shelter. And keep also in mind that most tornadoes are EF 0 and EF 1, so they're very, very weak. In the summertime, especially, usually pretty weak, especially here they happen. So that's good because those don't do a whole lot of damage, and as long as you're in a good structural integrity, you'll be fine. Even though I'd never tell you to ride out a tornado in a mobile home, if it's an EF 0, you'll be okay. If it's an EF 1, it might flip you and maybe cause some damage there, and so you're not exactly in the best place, but you're not going to know if it's an EF 1 or EF 0 at the time, right? So that's why I say just don't use that as a place for shelter. But outside of that, most houses will be fine. All right, a couple more comments, and I'm going to let you go. So on Megan on YouTube, yes, this was in my weather app. It's called AT's Weather to Go. You can download on Apple or Google Play stores. Jennifer says, when I see DBZ on radar, I'm so confused. Please explain this so we can better interpret the radar on your app. So, like I mentioned earlier, if it's red, that means it's very, very heavy rain. So the red color corresponds to 50 dBz. As that, Chad, I see you. As that value goes up, then the potential for hail comes involved. Now, in a very heavy downpour tropical environment, you can get sometimes DBZ values that go up around 65, and there's no hail in them, but it's just torrential flooding rainfall. Usually that's not the case. Usually it's hail that you're seeing that gives you those higher values. So rule of thumb is if it's at least 60 DBZ or higher, it's going to have hail in it. It'd be a freak event if it didn't. And usually the higher the value, the bigger the hail. So for example, you get a 70 in there, looking at some big time hail. So that's bigger than golf balls usually. So it's probably 2 inches in diameter. And we have some other products on the radar, dual polarization products that I can use on the fly. I do these lives to detect whether or not it's something that's going to be even bigger than that. And those kind of products help us out as meteorologists. Adam had a good idea. You can set up alerts for multiple locations on my weather app. So somebody was asking about Davis. So yeah, you go onto my app. So let me just show you that as well. Pull that back up. Okay, so iPhone and Android are a little different. On Android, it's just 3 dots. iPhone, it's a balloon icon at the top. But when you click on that on the top right, you'll see the word locations. So you click on locations, and you have your default, which is my current location, which is based off your GPS. So make sure your GPS is running for the app to know where you are to send you the alerts. And when you download the app for the first time, I hate what Google and Apple have done, but especially Google, you have to select allow the app to run in the background all the time. Now, it will not eat your battery, so don't worry. It rests. It is only for the push notifications. That doesn't take any battery power. But if you don't enable that, you won't get the push notifications, which is what you're looking for. But anyway, so just add a location. So I visited my brother a couple weeks ago, so I put in Fall City. So Fall City, Washington is what I entered. But you can enter up to 16 different locations. So this would be, again, for my brother. If I want to keep tabs on him, I can find out what the weather's doing up there. Then I can get warnings and notifications for anything that approaches his house. But you can do that with your kids, if you're an extended family or vacation at home or grandparents. So that's how you keep tabs on various locations. If you're camping somewhere and you get a lightning notification goes off, you're the mom, you're like, my boy better get out of wherever he is. You can call him or call the counselor or whatever, and they'll take care of it. I have athletic directors that use it, get the kids off the fields for lightning when they're out there practicing. So there's a lot of multiple uses for that. So Megan, there is a tutorial in the app. So if you look at the menu, which you can just swipe the phone from left to right, or you can tap down the top left, scroll all the way down, there's a menu. At the very bottom it says quick app tutorial. So press that one and it'll show you how you can walk through and set some of these things up if you're a little confused by it. But thanks for downloading and giving it a try. Okay, let me see a couple other questions. Let me load up my main Facebook page again. I had the app going, so I missed some of y'all's comments. Let's see. Debbie, by the way, sent me some stars. Appreciate you. So Leslie wants to know, when does the storm action start out there in I-40 between Clinton and Oklahoma City? So that won't be until after 6 o'clock. So we could... Somebody also asked for a recap because they were late to the party. Don't be late to the party. All right, let me see here. What was it going to do? I was going to do this. All right, so here's 6 o'clock, and then here's the I-40 corridor from Oklahoma City west. So Clinton's right about here. And you can see those storms up to the north from there, and this is at 6. So it would probably be after 6. So there's 7. See how quickly they make their way southward. So after that, it's fair game, really, and those will move on through. Now this model seems to think it'll move through between 7 and 8, but it could easily be between 6 and 7. So you got to give it an hour wiggle room. They're not that great, but they're pretty good at timing. Same thing here for Oklahoma City. So if you're just now tuning in, you're like, what is going on? Just some storms moving through. They'll have a little bit of hail with them, some of the bigger ones, and they will also have some damaging wind, up to probably about 70 to maybe 80 miles per hour. Now keep in mind that can do as much damage as a small tornado. The difference is, in a damaging wind event, all the wind field blows in one direction, so all the debris will blow in one direction. Fence, trees, shingles, whatever. If it's a tornado, they're blowing in all kinds of directions, all in a big, crazy circle. So that's how you can tell the difference between the two if you end up getting some wind damage to your house. But most people will see the straight line wind damage. Very few will actually experience tornado damage, which is good because that means they're very rare compared to the overall picture of all the other storms and what we normally get out of them. And real quick here, since I was mentioning it earlier, if you wanted to get your live weather station, you can get a Tempest weather station. This is what it looks like. So it's that little white picture you see there on the left and to the right of my head. So I got to point this direction. This guy right here. And there's a QR code there on the top right if you're on your computer. You can just point your phone to it, and that'll take you to the website directly where you can order it. Use my promo code ATsWeather, and that'll give you a discount on that, so you can save some money. But I've been using that. We got 3 other guys at work have it as well. So we're like in a group chat every time because we're a bunch of dorks when it comes to the weather. So we're all comparing our readings all the time, how much rain we got and the wind and everything else. And this stuff is instantaneous. You can watch the wind, for example. You can see it from the southwest at 2.9 miles per hour. And there's a little readout there on the west. So right now winds are calm, but they should pick up a little bit as we go throughout the day as that front gets closer. And then there's the temperature as well, 87.4, with the heat index there on the right, about 96 or so percent, or 96 or so degrees rather, and no rain. But anyway, so that's my station there, which we'll pull up from time to time on this deal, and just take a look at it, especially when we get storms moving through. Like if I'm doing a live, we can say, okay, let's see how much rain we're getting out of this instantaneous. Let's see what the wind gusts are instantaneous, that kind of deal. Now I do have, let me see if I can do this. Let's see this. All right, so I do have also another weather station because I got 2 because, that's what I do. This is the Davis Vantage Pro 2. It's a lot more expensive than the Tempest, but it's older technology versus the Tempest, which is brand new technology, so it's kind of neat. But on the Davis here, I can also pull up its readings for its temperature, wind direction, wind speed, max wind gusts, and rainfall. So I'll be able to show you that as well. So we get some really nasty storms around here. I can pull that up in real time and kind of see how that goes. But either one of these would be fine to get. It's just this one's a bit more expensive, so most people would rather go for the other less expensive version, which I get. And then I've got the Tempest there at the bottom right of the screen for you for that one. All right. That'll be it for me. Thanks for joining me and tuning in, and the stars for those of you folks that sent me some love. Debbie, I see what you did there. And we'll talk again later. I may do another live for the storms. I usually cover tornado events. Things are quiet and I've had a lot of breaks and I'm not busy at the time. I may cover some more of the stronger severe type storms, which would be damaging winds. That's a pretty significant magnitude, and or obviously some large hail. Did that with the one that occurred. We had two events actually for both wind and hail that moved through the southern part of Oklahoma City metro area earlier this year. So I cover both of those. So I usually, we'll cover those types of events, the really big ones. But we'll see. All right, you guys have a great rest of your day. Stay safe. Thanks for using my weather app, AT's Weather to Go, and we'll talk again soon. Be safe, everybody.